Move! Get her off that porch!
A 68-year-old woman had only one thing to defend herself.
An iPad. Turn that camera off. Now.
No, sir. The camera stays on.
You are trespassing on seized federal property.
My family owned this land before your badge existed.
Thousands were now watching.
Read it out loud.
Sir, she's live. Who authorized this? And you made one mistake. Stand down. Leave now. Copy that.
Somebody was afraid of what I'd already recorded.
The DEA convoy arrived at sunrise. 6 black SUVs rolling down a gravel road lined with corn that stood 8 feet tall and green as money. Regional Director Carl Holt stepped out first, adjusting his aviator sunglasses even though the sun was still low and pale. Because Carl Holt had learned long ago that confidence was theater, and theater required props, he surveyed the property, 412 acres of bottomland in Sunflower County, Mississippi, the richest soil in the state, black as iron and soft as cake. The farmhouse was white clapboard with a porch that sagged in the middle like an old man's back. A rusting John Deere sat beside a barn that had been there since before the Civil Rights Act. Sunflowers in window boxes, a vegetable garden, a tire swing hanging from a pecan tree. Holt smiled. These things always looked the same. Move in, he said. May Louise Porter heard them coming before she saw them. She'd been up since 4:30. The way she'd been up at 4:30 every morning for 61 years, because the land didn't care about your sleep schedule, and the land always came first. She was on the porch drinking coffee when the black trucks crested the hill, and she watched them come with the same expression she used when weather rolled in off the Delta calm. Assessing, already calculating what it would cost her. She was 68 years old, 5 feet 2 inches tall, and had not weighed more than 130 pounds since the Carter administration. Her hair was white and pinned back with a tortoiseshell clip. Her hands were the hands of someone who had worked land her entire life, strong and scarred, and missing the tip of the ring finger on her left hand from a bailing accident in 1987. She wore overalls and rubber boots and a Sunflower County Fair t-shirt from 2019. She did not run inside. She did not reach for a phone. She set down her coffee cup, picked up the iPad her granddaughter Kezia had given her for Christmas and taught her how to use, and she tapped the camera icon. Then she pressed live. The agents were out of the vehicles by the time the broadcast started, 12 of them in tactical vests, hands on their weapons. Carl Holt walked toward the porch with a sheaf of papers and the kind of smile that assumed the person receiving it would be too afraid to look closely. May Louise Porter, he said. That's me, she said. And you're on Facebook Live. Smile for the camera. Holt stopped. He looked at the iPad, angled toward him on its little stand on the porch railing. The screen showed a red dot and a number, 42 viewers. He decided it didn't matter. People filmed police all the time now. It never mattered when you had the paperwork. Mum, I'm Regional Director Carl Holt with the DEA. We have a federal warrant to search this property. He held up the papers. We have information suggesting this property is being used in connection with narcotics distribution. May Louise looked at the warrant. She did not take it from his hand. Who told you that? She asked. That's confidential law enforcement information. Mum. She looked at the camera. You're hearing this. 61 years my family has farmed this land. My grandmother planted those pecan trees. My father built that barn. We grow corn, soybeans, cotton, sweet potatoes, and peanuts. We have never, in 4 generations, grown anything we were ashamed of. She looked back at Holt. You're welcome to look. The search took 4 hours. 12 agents with drug dogs and ground-penetrating radar and soil samplers went over every inch of those 412 acres. They found corn. They found soybeans. They found a family of possums living under the barn. They found May Louise's late husband's hunting rifles, properly licensed. They found seed invoices and irrigation receipts, and the careful, meticulous records of a woman who had been in business with the land for 60 years. They found not 1 gram of any controlled substance. May Louise sat on her porch the entire time, and the iPad sat beside her, its viewer count climbing. 42 became 300. 300 became 2,000. She narrated everything she saw in a voice as steady as the delta itself. They're in the barn now. That's where Earl kept his tools. Earl passed 4 years ago. Cancer. We were married 41 years. A pause. They're bringing the dog through the corn rows. That corn goes to the Sunflower County Food Bank every October. Has for 12 years. When Holt came back to the porch, his jaw was tight in the way of a man who has been told something he didn't want to hear. We didn't find narcotics on the premises. He said, no. May Louise agreed. You didn't. However, he paused to adjust his language. We have reason to believe this property has been used to facilitate narcotics trafficking under federal civil asset forfeiture law. We are authorized to seize property associated with criminal activity. We are taking possession of this land, pending investigation. May Louise looked at him for a long moment. You're taking my farm, she said, because you think it might have maybe been involved in drug dealing, even though you found nothing. The investigation is ongoing. Ma'am, my family has paid taxes on this land since 1923, she said. My grandfather bought it when black families weren't supposed to own anything in this county. He defended it. My father defended it. My husband defended it. I have defended it. She leaned forward in her rocker. And now you're taking it because of what you think might, maybe, possibly be true, with no evidence, no charge, and no trial. That is the law. Mum. May Louise looked at the camera. 11,000. 400 people are watching right now. She said, good morning, everybody. Holt looked at the screen. The number was real. Heferd. For the first time, the faintest flutter of something he had not expected to feel in Sunflower County. Mississippi. He felt watched. The seizure notice was taped to the door of the farmhouse at 1114 A.M. May Louise filmed it being taped. She filmed the agents loading back into their vehicles. She filmed the last truck cresting the hill and disappearing. Then she sat down, and she said to the camera, my name is May Louise Porter. I've lived on this land my entire life. I'm 68 years old, and the federal government just took it from me. I didn't call the police. I didn't call a lawyer. I haven't called my son, because he'd just worry himself sick. And there's nothing he can do from Washington anyway. She paused. I'm going to stay right here. They can try to move me if they want. I'd like to see them try. She picked up her coffee cup. It had gone cold. In the meantime, she said, I'm going to plant my garden. The video ended 40 minutes later. By then it had been shared 14,000 times. Marcus Porter was in a deposition when his paralegal opened the conference room door and mouthed 2 words at him. Your mother. He had learned to read that expression over 8 years. He excused himself, stepped into the hallway, and looked at his phone. 47 missed calls. 3 from colleagues, 4 from journalists, 7 from NPR. He watched the Facebook video standing in the hallway of the Robert F. Kennedy Department of Justice building in Washington, D.C., where he served as United States Attorney for the Southern District of Mississippi. He watched the part where Carl Holt told May Louise they were taking her farm. He watched his mother say, with the same voice she'd used to tell him he couldn't have dessert until he finished his collard greens. My family has paid taxes on this land since 1923. He put the phone in his pocket and went back into the conference room. He said to the attorney on the other side of the table, "We'll need to reschedule." He said to his paralegal, "Get me Sarah Chen." Now, Sarah Chen was his first assistant U.S. attorney and appeared in his office doorway 3 minutes later, already reading her tablet with the look she wore when something had gone wrong. "You've seen it," he said. 2 million views. She said. Marcus stood at his window looking out at Pennsylvania Avenue. He was 44 years old, which meant he'd been 12 when his father died, and his mother kept that farm running alone, sending him to school in clothes that were always clean even when money was thin. He had been 12 when he understood what the land meant to her, what it meant in the history of a black family in Mississippi, what it cost to hold it. He also knew things his mother didn't know. He knew that Carl Holt had, for 3 years, has been accepting payments from the Vargas organization, a Sinaloa-affiliated network, moving fentanyl through the Mississippi Delta, using agricultural properties as waypoints and cover. He knew that Holt had been seizing clean farms throughout the region, building a portfolio of rural properties for Vargas to use, and that the mechanism was always the same. A confidential informant named Dwayne Pittman, who provided tips that never once led to actual drugs. He had been building the financial case for 11 months. He was 3 weeks from the offshore records that would close it, but he had not known that Holt knew who Marcus was. Watching the video again, he focused not on the seizure, but on the moment before it, the way Holt had paused at the foot of the porch steps, looked at the mailbox, and let something settle in his face that Marcus recognized as calculation. Not surprise, he had known. He had chosen this farm deliberately. He's sending a message, Marcus said. He's telling me he can reach my family. Sarah looked up from her tablet. If he knows about the investigation, he suspects, or someone told him we've been moving closer. Marcus turned from the window, which means he also knows our timeline. 3 weeks is too long. He sat down. What do we have right now that's usable? The Pittman informant records the pattern of the seizures themselves, but the financial chain without the offshore accounts. We can indict Holt but not Vargas. And if we indict Holt without Vargas, Vargas disappears and we lose the whole network. Marcus looked at the video still open on his screen. His mother on her porch, saying she was going to plant her garden. We can't move yet, but we can't wait 3 weeks either. So what do? We change what waiting looks like. He picked up his phone. My mother just put 2 million witnesses on that porch with her. Every move Holt makes against her from this moment forward happens in public. He paused. He's going to understand that soon. The question is whether the people around him understand it too. Holt understood it within 48 hours. The same evening the video hit 2 million. He was on a call with the voice he reached only when things needed, managing a man he knew operated between Holt's office and Vargas's organization. A fixer who had kept the network running smoothly for 9 years by ensuring that nothing attracted too much attention. The coverage is a problem. Holt said, "It's noise." The fixer said, "Let it fade. You've had media attention before. It always fades. This one has a senator. Senators make statements. Then they move on." Holt was quiet. He had run 23 seizures in 2 years across 4 counties, 17 families, some with multiple parcels, none of them with cameras, none of them with connections, none of them persistent in this way. "I want to put some quiet pressure on," he said. "Make it less comfortable for her to stay. Don't." The fixer said immediately, "Every time you touch her, she films it and gets more viewers. The farm has become a camera. Leave it alone." And Vargas, a pause. Vargas is impatient. "I'm managing him. But Carl, do not touch that farm again. Let me handle Vargas." Holt agreed. He did not know that Vargas had already stopped listening to the fixer. May Louise did not leave. She slept in her own bed that night, and every night after. She filed a motion challenging the seizure with a civil rights attorney from Jackson. She made collard greens and cornbread, posted a photograph with the caption, "Time's still here. Land may be seized, but seeds don't know that. Come eat, if you're in the county." 17 people showed up for dinner that Saturday. By the following Saturday, it was 64. She also started noticing things. A dark blue Silverado parked on the county road, 300 yards from her gate. It had been there Tuesday. It was there Wednesday morning. Gone by Wednesday afternoon. The plates were Mississippi. But the truck had the particular cleanliness of a vehicle that worked indoors. She filmed it. She posted the photo with the plate number and a caption times "Strange truck, been sitting on the road outside my property for 2 days. If this is somebody's, come knock on the door. I have cornbread." The truck disappeared within the hour. On Thursday, her electricity went out at 11 p.m. Not the whole road, just her property. The power company said there were no outages in her area. She went out with a flashlight and found that the line at the road had been cut cleanly, not broken. She filmed the cut end in the flashlight beam and posted it. Then she plugged her iPad into the truck's USB charger, turned on the mobile hotspot, and went live from the cab. "Somebody cut my power line tonight," she said, her face lit from below by the flashlight propped on the seat. Clean cut. Not a storm break. It's 11:42 p.m. on a Thursday. I want everyone to note the time. I'm calling the county sheriff in the morning. And I want this on record. 90,000 people watched that video by morning. 2 civil rights attorneys and a state representative publicly demanded an investigation into whether the outage was connected to the DEA seizure, and Carl Holt, when he found out, called the fixer and said, "With unusual coldness, I told you to leave her alone. I did." The fixer said, "Someone cut her power line." Silence on the other end. "Then that wasn't me." "Then who?" Another silence. Longer. "Vargas has people in the area. He's been watching the property himself. He doesn't like the attention." The fixer's voice was careful now. "Carl, I may have less control over his side of this than I told you." Holt stared at the coverage on his screen. May Louise, in her truck in the dark, telling 90,000 people what time it was. He had been meticulous for 9 years. He had built something that worked because it was invisible, and now it was visible. And the people making it more visible were not May Louise. She was just sitting on her porch, but his own network, pulling in directions he hadn't authorized, leaving footprints he hadn't approved. "Keep Vargas away from the farm," he said. "Whatever it takes. I'll try," the fixer said, which was not the same as yes. The woman who knocked on May Louise's door 2 weeks after the seizure was about 35, heavyset, wearing a Bolivar County Fair t-shirt, and had been crying recently in the way that leaves a face swollen and careful. "Mrs. Porter, my name is Denise Henderson. My family's farm is in Bolivar County. They took it 6 months ago." She stopped. "I saw your videos. I didn't know what to do. And then I saw you on the porch and I thought she looks like she knows something I don't." May Louise opened the screen door. "Come in. I'm putting up tomatoes. Talk while you help." The Henderson family had 80 acres and 3 generations of catfish farming, seized the previous spring on the same basis as May Louise's property, a confidential informant tip that turned up nothing. Same DEA regional office, same Dwayne Pittman name on the paperwork, which Denise had found after 3 months of fighting for any paperwork at all. "Same informant." May Louise said, "Same, everything." Denise was pressing lids onto jars with focused determination. The way people work when they're keeping themselves from crying. "My daddy's in the nursing home in Cleveland. He keeps asking when he can go back to the farm. He's 81 years old. He grew up on that land." May Louise looked at her. "You have your seizure paperwork, what I could get. Tax records. Income. Invoices, 10 years of them. Bring everything you have. Come back Saturday. I've got 60 people coming for dinner, and some of them are lawyers. Why are you helping me? Denise said. You've got your own, because whoever did this to me did it to you first. May Louise said, which means there are others, and I want to know how many. She handed Denise a jar of tomatoes. Come back Saturday. She did not call Marcus, but she started a spreadsheet. She reached out through her attorney and through the network of people who had been eating Saturday dinner on her porch, and she began collecting names. Within a week, she had 7 families. Within 2 weeks, she had 17. She cross-referenced the seizure paperwork when she could get it. Every case she could confirm had the same informant name, Dwayne Pittman. The same DEA regional office. The same 6-month timeline from seizure to auction. 23 properties. 17 families. 4 counties. 9 years if you counted back from when Pittman first appeared in the DEA's informant records, which her Jackson attorney had finally managed to obtain. She put it in a spreadsheet: property address, family name, seizure date, auction date, informant name, county, and emailed it to Marcus with a subject line that said, "Times I think this is bigger than my farm. Thought you should see." Marcus received his mother's email at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. An hour after Judge Whitmore had signed the Cayman warrant in his kitchen over coffee, he opened the spreadsheet. He read it twice. "Sarah," he said when she appeared in his doorway, "I need you to see what my mother sent me." Sarah Chen read it and was quiet for a moment. She built this herself, knocked on doors for 2 weeks while she was putting up tomato preserves. This is exactly the community pattern we've been trying to establish through the financial records. Sarah looked up. The warrant was always going to close the financial chain. But this, she gestured at the screen, this gives us the human scope of what Holt built. 23 properties, 17 families, 4 counties. The warrant didn't start this case. Marcus said, "It's finishing it." Sarah Chen read the Cayman financial records in 6 hours. The structure was a network of shell companies with names like Sunflower, Agricultural Holdings LLC, and Delta Meridian Properties LLC, each layered inside others. Money moving in patterns designed to look like legitimate agricultural investment. The Belize entity held 12 years of payment records, payments to Holt, payments to 4 other DEA agents in the regional office, payments to a state circuit court judge who had expedited seizure proceedings, payments to Dwayne Pittman via an intermediary account, and payments flowing back to Vargas's network from the proceeds of those 23 property auctions. $18 million over 2 years. It's enough, Sarah said. Vargas is in the country. Memphis. Flew in this morning. Marcus was quiet. He thought about the spreadsheet on his screen. 23 rows, 17 family names, 4 counties, and about the 81-year-old man in a nursing home in Cleveland asking when he could go back to his farm. "We move today," he said. "Before Holt knows, we have the records." But Holt already knew. He had a contact inside the federal clerk's office, a low-level employee who had been on the Vargas payroll for 4 years and whose only job was to watch for certain names appearing on warrant applications. Adopt Chinchis M. That contact sent a text times Cayman Islands Bankers Trust. Sealed warrant. Porter's office. Holt read it at 8:22. He sat for a moment in his office, the morning light coming through the blinds in flat strips. 9 years. 17 families whose farms had been quietly converted into way stations for product moving north from the Gulf. 18 million through accounts he'd been careful enough to never touch directly. He had been meticulous. He had been patient. He had always believed. Invisible, he called the fixer. Porter has the Cayman records, he said. A long silence. How long have you known he was building a case? Long enough. I thought we had more time. We don't. Another silence. Vargas is going to run. He knows what those records show. Then Let him run. He runs. If Vargas runs, he takes everything with him, and you become the only name in the file. The fixer's voice had changed. It was the voice of a man updating a calculation. Carl, listen to me. If you have any ability to slow Porter down, even by a few hours, anything that creates delay, noise, legal complication, Holt thought. His gaze moved to his screen, where May Louise Porter's Facebook page was still open from the previous night's monitoring. Her Saturday dinner post, 64 people eating sweet potato pie on seized land. Smiling, he had promised himself he would not touch her again. He had told himself it was strategy. Every escalation became more coverage, more witnesses, more exposure. He had been right. The truck, the power line, those had been Vargas's people, and each one had made things worse. But Vargas was about to run, and Marcus Porter had the records, and Holt needed hours he didn't have. He picked up his desk phone and called his operations supervisor, the Porter property in Sunflower County. He said, "We have an active seizure order. I need a removal team out there tonight. Formal eviction. Make it official. Tonight." Sir, tonight. He hung up. He knew it was wrong. He knew it would make the coverage worse. He knew it was exactly the thing the fixer had told him not to do. He did it anyway. Because 9 years of careful patience had run out, and what remained was the ragged thing underneath. At 9:17 that evening, May Louise heard tires on the gravel road. Not one vehicle. Several. She turned off the kitchen light and looked through the window. 3 vehicles with federal plates. Headlights off. Moving slow. She understood what this was. She picked up her iPad. She went to the porch and pressed live. The camera caught the headlights first. The way they came up the dark road without announcing themselves. Then May Louise's face, lit from the farmhouse window behind her. Steady and awake. "They're coming back," she said. 3 vehicles. Federal plates. No lights on. Which is interesting. She adjusted the camera angle toward the road. "My name is May Louise Porter. I have not been charged with any crime. I have not been given any notice of removal. It is 9:70 p.m. on a Thursday, and I want you to see exactly what is happening. 12,000 people were watching within 4 minutes, then 30,000. The number was climbing when the lead vehicle stopped at the end of the lane, and a man in a jacket, Agent Reeves. Operations. Holt's office got out and walked toward the porch with a flashlight and a folded document. "Mrs. Porter, I'm Agent Reeves, with the DEA. I have a formal eviction order requiring you to vacate this property immediately. Please gather. You're on Facebook Live." May Louise said, 61,000 people are watching right now. I'd like you to hold up that order to the camera. Please." Reeves stopped. He looked at the iPad. He looked at May Louise. He looked back at the iPad, at the number still climbing. He had not been briefed about the camera. He had been told this was a routine eviction of a trespasser on seized federal property. He had not been told that this particular trespasser had 61,000 live witnesses. "Ma'am, I need you to. I'm not going anywhere," May Louise said, pleasantly. "You're welcome to wait." She looked at the camera. "For those of you just joining, the DEA is here at my home at 9:18 p.m. on a Thursday to remove me from land my family has owned since 1923. This is the same farm they searched 3 weeks ago and found nothing. I will be right here as long as it takes." Her phone buzzed. A reporter from the Associated Press was calling. She answered it on speaker. "I can't talk right now. I'm a little busy. But yes, you can quote me." Reeves spoke quietly into his radio. He was waiting for guidance that wasn't coming fast enough. On the road behind him, headlights had appeared. Not federal vehicles. Neighbors. The Tatum family from the next property. Their truck pulled sideways across the road shoulder. The Okafor family from 2 miles east. Someone's uncle, in a lawn chair, 93,000 people watching, May Louise said. To no one in particular, Reeves looked at his radio. He looked at the crowd gathering at the road. He looked at the comment stream scrolling on the iPad screen beside May Louise, his name. His badge number that someone had looked up. The word, Reeves, trending on Twitter. He was a man doing a job he had been told was routine. And it was not routine. And he had been given no instructions for what to do when 60 seconds of decision-making was being watched by 100,000 people. He stepped back. He raised his radio again, in Jackson. Carl Holt had been watching the Facebook Live on his phone for 4 minutes when it rang. Locked number, he answered. Carl Holt, said Marcus Porter's voice. Quiet and exact as a measurement. The Cayman records have been in our possession since this morning. Eduardo Vargas Ruiz was arrested in Memphis at 8:51 p.m. We have communication logs, payment records, and the full offshore structure. A pause. I have agents outside your building. You can walk out the front door, or we can come in. Holt looked at the phone. He looked at the Facebook Live still playing on his screen, May Louise on her porch. Steady as the land beneath her. 112,000 people watching. He set down the phone. He straightened his jacket. He walked out the front door, 200 miles away. May Louise watched Agent Reeves put his radio away and walk back to his vehicle. The other vehicles followed. 3 sets of taillights moved back down the road and disappeared over the hill. She looked at the camera. They're gone. She said. 140,000 people exhaled. I don't know exactly what just happened. She said. But I know they stopped. She looked down at her hands in her lap. I'm going to stay out here for a little while, just in case. She looked at the camera. Thank you for sitting with me. She did not know yet that Carl Holt was being read his rights in a parking lot in Jackson. She did not know about Vargas, or the Cayman records, or the 23 families whose seizures would be reversed. She did not know that the spreadsheet she had built on her kitchen table while she was putting up tomatoes had given the investigation what 11 months of financial forensics couldn't, the names and faces of every family the system had swallowed before it tried to swallow her. She just sat on her porch, in the dark, and held the camera steady. The press conference happened on the steps of the federal courthouse in Jackson the following morning. Marcus Porter stood at the microphone with Sarah Chen on his right and Diana Walsh, FBI, Public Corruption. The parallel track he had run for insurance on his left, and he read from the indictment in the careful voice of a man who has spent his career in evidence and facts. Carl Holt, 4 other DEA agents, a state circuit court judge, Dwayne Pittman, Eduardo Vargas Ruiz, arrested in Memphis at 8:51 p.m. The previous night, 23 properties seized fraudulently over 9 years. Across 4 counties, 17 families, $18 million laundered through shell companies, a narcotics network protected and enabled for nearly a decade. A reporter asked Mr. Porter, "Was your mother's farm one of the targeted properties?" "Yes." "And how long had you been investigating Director Holt?" 11 months for the financial network. But the full scope, the 17 families, 23 properties, we only confirmed through evidence gathered in the last 2 weeks. He paused. Some of that evidence came from my mother. The room went quiet. She found 17 families herself. He said, knocking on doors, collecting paperwork, cross-referencing seizure documents while she was putting up tomato preserves. She sent me a spreadsheet at 6:47 yesterday morning. It documented everything we had been trying to establish through financial records, but from the ground up, with names and faces attached. He looked at the room. I had 11 months and a federal investigation. She had 2 weeks and a kitchen table. He paused. I want that on the record. A different reporter. Your mother's live streams have now been viewed over 15 million times combined. Do you believe her public documentation affected the investigation? My mother acted alone, with no coordination, no resources except an iPad, and 60 years of knowing how to hold her ground. He looked directly at the camera. What she understood intuitively is something that took me 11 months to prove in court. People with power commit crimes in the dark. Turn on a light and the crime changes shape. She turned on a light. She held it steady, and she did not look away. The seizure of May Louise Porter's farm was formally reversed 8 days later. A federal judge voided all 23 fraudulent seizure orders in a single ruling. The land went back to its owners. Denise Henderson's father was driven back to his catfish farm in Bolivar County on a Wednesday afternoon. He was 81 years old, and he walked to the edge of the pond and stood there for a long time without saying anything. Denise called May Louise from the road and said, "He's just standing there looking at it." She couldn't finish the sentence. May Louise said, "Let him stand." After the call, she sat on her porch and watched the evening come in over her own fields. The corn had been cut for harvest. The pecans were dropping in the yard, the way they had dropped every autumn since her grandmother's time. She picked up the iPad. She went live. 300,000 people joined within a few minutes. But she didn't mention the number. She said, the land came back. All 23 properties. All 17 families. 4 counties. A pausa. I want to tell you something about this land. It doesn't know about any of what happened. The court orders, the warrants, the shell companies, the indictments. The land doesn't know about any of it. The corn kept growing while it was seized. The pecans kept dropping. The catfish kept swimming in Bolivar County. She rocked slowly. The land was just waiting. We were the ones who had to catch up to it. She looked at her hands. My son called last night. He told me everything. He told me why he couldn't call me for 11 months. She was quiet for a moment. I understand why. I think it was even right. But I'll tell you something. There is a cost to protecting people you love by keeping them in the dark, even when it's necessary, even when it works. She paused. He's coming home next weekend to fix the barn roof. I think we'll have some things to say. She ended the stream. She put on her garden gloves and went to check the fence line before dark, the way she had done every evening for 40 years, because the land always came first, and the land didn't care what had happened to it, only what happened next. Carl Holt received 38 years in federal prison. Eduardo Vargas Ruiz, under a cooperation agreement, received 29 years and provided evidence that dismantled 2 additional trafficking networks operating through the South. Dwayne Pittman cooperated immediately and completely, and received 5 years and a shame he would carry in his chest for the rest of his life. Marcus came home the following weekend, and they fixed the barn roof together, working in the particular silence of people who understand each other well enough not to fill it. On Sunday evening, on the porch with coffee, May Louise said, "You did right. I want you to know I believe that." He nodded. "It still cost something." She said, "I know." She looked at the fields. Most things worth doing do. The pecans dropped in the yard. The evening birds moved through the corn stubble. 412 acres of the oldest soil in Sunflower County lay patient and dark around the white clapboard house, and did not know about warrants or shell companies or indictments, only about what had been planted in it, and what it had given back, and the slow accumulation of years. May Louise finished her coffee. "Come back for Christmas," she said. "Yes, ma'am." Marcus said, "If you were sitting on that porch the night those headlights came up the road, no lawyer, no backup, no guarantee of what came next, would you have held the camera steady? Leave your answer below. And if someone you know is fighting something that should be theirs, send them this story. New one next week. We'll see you there."